want to thank everybody for coming. And before we start, I wanted to ask a couple of questions. I just want to gauge how much experience people have. So, how many people here have done some Seitei-jo? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, 3, 4. You know the whole. Who knows the whole set of Seitei? Okay.
Working on it.
The whole set. We'll start with Ranai.
I know all the stories.
All right, and who is doing some classical, some Koryu Jodo? Except for Peter. Okay, and Dale. Okay, well, we had a couple of different ideas of what to work with. I'm open to ideas, so if we have anything that anybody would particularly like to work on, we can do that. What I was thinking to do is probably we'll have 4 sessions. So I was thinking about doing 3 of the Kihon at the beginning of each session, because otherwise I could spend the whole week doing Kihon, but at least that way we'll maybe have some intensive practice on a few of the items and kind of share my ideas about how those work. And I know there was some curiosity to learn some of the classical Jodo katas that are not in the Seitei set. Some of those are a little bit, well, there's a reason they were left out of Seitei. They're a little complex, but I think we can do a good mix and have a productive week or half week. So anyway, let's go ahead and we'll begin. We'll bow in, and so we don't have an actual shinzen. We'll bow to the front wall. So let me go ahead and have everybody just kind of line up over here. And anybody have knee problems? So I'm go ahead and make like 2 or 3 lines. 3 lines probably work. Maybe 2. Okay. And in the classical Jo style, we usually bow kneeling, so we'll go ahead and do that. And how many people have never picked up a Jo before? Maybe a little. Okay. So so you know the names, how the positions, and how to hold the Jo. I'm going to make safety disclaimers. First thing is that we don't want to swing the Jo around or spin it. If you have the Jo in this position, don't do that while backing up or turning, because you can't see behind you, and we don't want to have anyone get injured. The position many of you are in right now, this position, go ahead and take in your left hand, holding this way, and this is called Ritsu Jo, standing Jo, and this is or Taiso Yoi, they call it, ready for practice sometimes. And this is a basic posture. If you have it in this hand, you have this position, Saie-jo, and this position called Sune no Kamai. So being called a Kamai means that it is an official, a combative posture, not just a way to hold the Jo. So this is actually a functional posture, and we'll go over some of the others later. But let's go ahead and we'll go ahead and kneel and begin. Okay. Shomen ni. Okay. Otagai ni, to each other. Right? All right. All right. Good. Okay. So, like I said, I think the first thing we'll do is we'll start with the first 3 Kihon. And now that I've got you all in these wonderful ranks, let's get you back against the wall so we can do some work. And when we do Honte Uchi, the first strike called Honte Uchi, what we want to do is we begin from this position, I think you've been here before, so maybe you remember. I'm just going to quickly review. Every time you bring it to this position, this is called Hante no Kamai. Every time you bring it to that position, I want you to feel as if you are thrusting the tip of the Jo into the eyes of your opponent. So your opponent is going to be, for this practice, the same height as you are, same size. It is yourself, more or less. So from here, you have Sune no Kamai. Come up, about one step from the wall so you can, there you go. And from this position here, the tip of the Jo should be about mid-center of your body. And you're holding the Jo balanced pretty much on your middle finger. When you bring it to the front, Hante no Kamai, here, to this position. Okay, good. Let's come back. And I want to show you, now I saw a few different things here. Peter, let me borrow Peter. He's a little bit taller than I am, so I'm going to adjust, but you know, maybe we'll get the point. Many people are doing this. That's not a thrust to the eyes. One of the key issues of the Jo is the Jo needs to move in the most efficient way possible. Your body adapts to moving the Jo. So when this Jo, if this Jo is floating in space and wants to attack him, it's just going to propel itself straight to his eyes on the line of the Jo. It's already on the line to his eyes. Zat! It just goes right there. So let's try again. I want you to imagine someone this distance, maybe height of your eyes, and I want you to let that Jo just come straight up to his eyes as you step forward. Hand and foot together. Here. Wrists on top. Okay? Thank you. Okay. Together. I'll make them a little bit more space, please. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Good. Okay. And the command is Hante ni Kamai. That means to bring it up. Hante ni Kamai. Good. All right. And if you were to follow the line of the Jo back to your body, it would go to your center. Okay, so if you have the Jo here, it's going back to nothing. If it's, and I want to show you a little trick you can play with if you have a partner, is that if I push on this Jo, it should be pretty solid. And I want you to take a look at this. If the Jo is too low and you push on it, it becomes really weak. If the Jo is too high and you push on it, it becomes really weak. If the Jo is right in the center, it's pretty strong. And now I'm pushing against his back foot and I have a problem. Okay? So that's what we want to do. We want to always maintain a good, strong, proper structure. So you can see my feet are a little wider than if you're used to Aikido. Maybe you have this stance. And in Jodo, it's going to be a little longer and a little bit wider. So this right here, this type of foot position is going to support the Jo. This is also really important, especially for taller people. I've had some people complain about in Jodo that it hurts their back. And the problem with hurting the back is that if my feet are really narrow, I've got all this weight out in front of me. All of a sudden, I don't have that problem anymore. So this wider stance actually balances the length of the Jo and the fact that you're putting power out. Okay? So go ahead and let me let you guys hold Hante Kamai for a second. Good. Feel how that's a little too low? Get it into your center. Ah! There. Very good. Oh, you've got a big stout staff right there. There we go. Good, good, good. A little bit higher. There you go. Yeah. A little bit out from your center, please. Here. Feel how you're back on your heels? Yeah, I want you to shift your weight forward and bend that front knee a little bit. Not too much forward. But if you can see, this knee wants to be bent almost vertical. If I have this knee back, this also pulls my hips back, and I now don't have power, and I'm going to be off balance backwards. So it's a fairly aggressive stance. Okay. Jodo. Yeah. A little bit forward. There you go. Good. There. Feel where does it get strong? It's strong about right there. Yeah? Feels a little low. There you go. One of the other issues is that very much like Aikido, one of the crucial issues in Jodo is your distance. So if I'm holding the Jo here, I've just given up about a foot of distance. Okay? And yes, I'm making you hold the Jo out there for a while. All right? So when we do Hanteuchi, first thing is, as you're practicing and as you start building up your speed with this, you want to start with your small muscles. So you turn that hand. Okay? Some people call this cupping the hand. Kame Sensei calls it a fukuro, bag. So you make a bag at each end. When you draw the stick back, I don't want you to feel like you're pulling the stick away from your target. I want you to feel like you're drawing back an arrow in a bowstring. So that even as you're pulling back, if the guy makes a weird move, you can fire that. So what this does is, if you notice, if I start pulling at a weird angle, I'm offline. So I'm online, I'm online, I'm online. This starts to come up, and I want you to look at, from behind, the line of this stick. It's not coming out, it's coming up. When it gets to here, now I've got a grip on it, and I can strike. Okay? You should feel yourself sliding into a grip, and then stepping into the technique. So, let's go together.
Which hand is
Cupping the, huh?
You have your left hand on top. Okay.
It depends on which side you're on. Yeah. Cup the back hand, draw back, raise up, and I want you to stretch forward and see how far you can stretch without moving your heel and without losing that control of the stick. I get to about here. Okay? This means that I can save my step to create power with this strike. Okay? Again. Cup, draw, raise, grip, and strike. Cup, draw, raise, grip, and strike. So the gripping is important. A lot of times if you feel like you're just kind of throwing the Jo out there and it just kind of ends somewhere, there's not really any power. If you hit something and you don't have a solid grip, you're not going to be able to transmit power from your body into your target. Okay? So let's do one more forward. Notice, who are you pointing at with that stick?
I'm trying to stay out of your way.
Oh, okay. I appreciate that. Go ahead and keep good. Kamai. Draw back. Straight back. Raise, grip, and strike with your step. Okay, this is too high now, right? So one of the very, very fine teachings that we've had in this dojo on this floor was the fact that Hante Kamai is always the same Hante Kamai in terms of its structure. Sometimes you have a little different position. It'll adapt to a technique a little bit, but you have to have this position. If you do this and one time it's here and one time it's here, you don't have Hante Kamai. You just got throwing the Jo out. So from this place, let's go backwards now. So going backwards, we do almost the same thing. Cup, draw. Going backwards, you got a sword in front of you. You might want to move a little sooner. So this position, okay? Cup, draw, raise, and grip as you step. Yes, sir.
Point that
Hi.
you do beautifully, but
unless it's mentioned, they don't. A lot of people miss this. When you do it, your center stays. If there's a Joe there, when you do it, my center is going to stay on his center. So be careful that you don't turn your hips. Hi. Now I'm pointed over there, and there's no takey over there. Right. So the trick is keep your feet up shoulder width apart, and those move forward. Yeah. They don't move around. Right. Right. Very good. Now there is a little bit of a change in the angle. So let's belabor the point for just a second. And the point is, I want you to, if we have this as the line between us, right there. Let's grab a bit of Joe here. And now I practice the classical style of Jodo, which is a little different from the way that some of the people we've done Seite, for instance, the posture here versus here. Can you see the difference? This posture, if I draw the stick back, it's going to hit me. All I did was you notice this is a very small shift. Look at my heel. As opposed to here, it's here. What does that do? Well, now if I draw the stick back, it clears my hip, just barely. But I want you to look at this angle that it's at. It's a little bit of an angle. What happens if I am on the other side? Clears the hip. It's at this angle. It's not a lot. It's not even 15
10 degrees, yeah.
Yeah, it's about 10, yeah, something like that. I've done some math on this, and we'll talk about it later when we do Hikiotoshi. But there is a very specific angle that we want to talk about. But so if I'm here at this angle, I draw and strike, it's actually changed. My hip, basically the width of my hips. It's a little less than the width of my hips. Yeah. But if you project it out to here, that would be the width of my hips. But where is your center? What do we mean by your center? Does that mean my facing? Is this always center? So that if I do this, am I now off center to my opponent? Does this feel like I'm off center? Does this feel like I'm off center?
That's good.
But my stomach is pointing over there. So center can be here. In Iaido, my center might be on the inside edge of my thigh. So when we talk about center, we're talking about not facing, but we're talking. Where's my center now? I'm still centered on him, even though I'm in. This is in Iaido we call this posture irimi, which is an entering posture. But my facing is over here. My body mass is extending towards my opponent. So we have to be careful about terms. And when we talk about where's your center, keeping the Joe in your center. Is this in the center? Well, it's offline. But it feels like center.
This is centered.
That's centered. Yeah. So we do have that little bit of a switch. And when you do Hosomichi, you'll find that it keeps your hand from getting cut off. The fact that this center and this center are actually, they're the same but different. I think Dan Pearson described Hosomichi as a technique that's really simple but impossible. So anyway, when we do this, I want you to try to use this slight angle off of center. I think Abe Sensei talked about it being, when you come over the top, it may not be straight down like a kendo strike, but it's going to be almost. And we asked the question, if you think about, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, where is it coming from? Abe Sensei said, maybe 11:30. So it's as close to the center line, to the straight center line, as you can be while accommodating the fact that our bodies have these differentials that we have to accommodate. So, so when we go forward and backwards on these, if you have your body flat centered like this, you're going to have to turn your hip to draw the stick anyway. So we just keep our hip there. And we find that there are a number of advantages in strategy and angle that, that this helps with. Okay? So let's see here. The main thing I think I want to get you to work on with this is the timing of your steps and how you're using the power. Because if I do this, the way I was taught originally was as you rise with your step, the Jo rises, and as you fall, the Jo falls. Well, the only problem with that is that most of my power comes from my body movement and my hips. And if I use half of my body power to raise the Jo, I've just wasted it. I'm not hitting anybody with it. I'm not using it for a constructive purpose. Actually, Jo's are pretty light. I don't need my hip power to raise the Jo. Comstock Sensei talks about weaponizing the Jo. That right now, it's just a piece of wood, it's a stick, it's not very dangerous. Now it starts to become dangerous. And if you can watch this rhythm, I'm reserving my step, I'm reserving all of that power for the strike. So I'm not powering the Jo up. I'm letting the Jo almost go where it wants to. And you can see how I've actually stretched out as far as I can along this axis of my body. Zut! And then when you strike, you step and you square your body into the attack. Okay? So let's go ahead and we'll do back and forth a few times. And both of us, I think, we'll just kind of check out the line. If we see something people are doing that warrants correction, we'll talk about it. Okay? So going backwards still. Hontage, cup, draw, raise, strike. Cup, draw, raise, and strike. Draw, raise, strike. Cup, draw, raise, strike. Okay, stay right where you are. And I want to look at a couple of things. Courtney, right now, this is your angle of your body.
This way or forward?
Right now, you're having a tendency to lean the upper body forward like this. I want you to see this. So that my back leg is almost straight, my front leg is bent, and my hips are under my shoulders. And something I've started to become a bug about is head posture. If I'm doing this, I've actually just thrown myself, even if I have good hips under me and my neck is forward, it's not good posture. This is good posture. And everybody try this. You're in Kamae. I want you to push your head forward a little bit and feel what that does to your posture. Now I want you to raise your head straight up over your spine. Feel what that does for your posture. Did you feel an emotional change? Okay? I know a lot of people that think that their strikes get better if they grimace and push their face forward. It doesn't help. What it actually does is it weakens your... When I do this, it actually forces my hips back a little bit. It's got a balance. If I have this, you can see that what it's doing is pulling my whole body together. It shapes the musculature of my back. It drops. When my neck goes up, my shoulders and my spine drop into my hips, which is where I want them. And all of my teachers, when I look at them, they have got this beautiful, clean, vertical posture all the time. And most of the time when they're kicking your butt, they're smiling while they're doing it. And I think that's a very good thing to emulate. So.